Sorry, I was hacking up a lung just a second ago. I'm good now. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Oh, this is gonna be a chapter of all time, let me tell you. It's a rough one, but a good one. I think it's better handled here than in the movie. You need to restart? Sure thing. You have time. I'm still kind of getting settled in my chair, getting ready. I just decided to skip the tea this time, and I'm just going to go with straight honey every once in a while. That's an old singing trick I used to use. That, and strangely enough, applesauce. Worked really well. It's right about the pH you want your throat to be for singing. So, really fast trick to get your throat through times that you need it and you're pushing it too far. Like in competitions. Which, mind you, I never did solo. But that's the deep ed lore. If we get there, I'll talk about it more on the karaoke stream. But yeah. Let's see. We should be good to go in maybe 10 minutes or so. Let people filter in. Let me find a spot for this alarm on my desk. So that way I can see it. Because it's a visual alarm. There we go. Very nice. Very nice. That's actually really nice. That's a good setup. And I was trying to get a really good setup before I started, and I was like, I guess it's good enough. And that just finished off exactly what I was needing out of the setup. That's very nice. So yeah, in about 10 minutes, we'll get started in Chapter 3, Swamps of Sadness area, which is not actually called the Swamps of Sadness as the name of the chapter. The name of the chapter is Morla the Aged One. But the Swamps of Sadness is where Morla the Aged One is. So. My microphone decided I need to quack a little bit. In other words, I need to move it slightly. I still have not gotten WD-40. Welcome back. All good with your restart then? Yay. Wonderful. I'm giving people about 7 or 8 more minutes to kind of filter in. I have a little visual alarm here on the desk. You can actually see the first one of that I got in there's a section underneath of the stream called accessibility, and there's a link there for a visual timer. That's the sort of thing that I'm using. I actually have a different version now that has a task list over on the other side as well. So it's like 2 things at once, and it has a little clock at the bottom, which is nice. I'll take a picture of this later for everyone. I still recommend the one that's linked in my bio, though, because the alarm on the one that I currently use is irritating as shit. And, yeah. Yeah, I'm finishing up smoking before we start, which I'm sure I will totally not regret. Reading I don't know how many pages. But if we remember where we were, a bunch of people from different parts of Fantastica within the book. We're going to see the childlike empress. She's just as sick as the land, etc. The best doctor ever. The empress sends him on a quest to find someone named Atreyu. He goes to the folks where he is, and he finds out he's just a boy. He ends up telling him everything, and the boy takes the quest and everything, and we start to head out, and he ends up talking to his horse, and his horse talks back to him, and is surprised that his master is not going on his, traditional hunt of the coming-of-age hunt of his people. And, and he has to go without his weapons and without anything except for the Auron, which is also called the gem or the glory around his neck, which is the same image that's on the front of the book for the Neverending Story. And we last left, switched back to the real world, where Bastion had been really stupid in the attic and made a bunch of noise, mimicking Atreyu. So that's kind of the recap for everything. Does anyone have any questions about where we are? A reminder, the real world is printed in the burgundy text, and the areas that are in Fantastica are in green text. So they're very specifically separated within the book. And I guess the recap on the real world side is that Bastion is this fat little kid that gets bullied a whole bunch and is just a very avid reader with a big imagination who lost his mom and in his escapism stole a book called The Neverending Story from a bookshop that he ran into because he was running away from bullies. Sorry about that. I had to cough. But yeah, he was running away from bullies and then ended up in the bookstore. And he ended up stealing the book, and without thinking, he ran all the way to school. And then he's hiding in the school attic reading the book at the moment. So is everyone cozied up? Everyone had food, taking care of themselves. You're all cozy and ready to tuck in for a chapter. Yay! It's hard to get the tracker to track my hands when there's a big book down here that's also reflecting a lot of light. I'm sure it'll figure it out over time. My tracking always does. Alright. I'm going to smoke 1 or 2 more times. Give the last couple people another minute and a half to kind of come in. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, right. Well, this is, where is my phone? This is a good time to take a picture of the front of the chapter and post it to Blue Sky, like I've been doing. One of these times I'm going to forget. Did I remember to change the stream title? Yes. Okay. I'm really good at forgetting that. Oh, that's right. This has some extra creepy stuff in it, too. All right. There we go. I got the picture of it. Let me go ahead and see if I can just post it to Blue Sky from here. Okay, alt text. Let me take a look at that again. An illustration at the beginning of Neverending Story, Chapter 3. Large burgundy colored calligraphy C is centered on the page. Behind it are 3 log men in I don't of different shapes. And below the sea is a large turtle that spans the width of the page. Descriptive alt text. I'd say that's pretty descriptive. Okay. Okay. Let me get the link. Copy link to post. There we go. There's a link to it if you need a direct link. I'm not sure if that will actually work, because I think my stuff doesn't work if you're logged out. Well, it's on my Blue Sky. You know how to look at my Blue Sky. There's also a link underneath the thing. But that should work. Alright, I think it is time for us to start. Move that to the back. What? Alright. The Neverending Story, Chapter 3. Morla, the Aged One. Chiron, the old black centaur, sank back on his bed of furs as Artax's hoofbeats were dying away. After so much exertion, he was at the end of his strength. The women who found him next day in Atreu's tent feared for his life. And when the hunters came a few days later, he was hardly any better. But he managed, nevertheless, to tell them why Atreu had ridden away and would not be back soon. As they were all fond of the boy, their concern for him made them grave. Still, they were proud that the childlike empress had chosen him for the great quest, though none claimed to understand her choice. Old Chiron never went back to the ivory tower, but he didn't die, and he didn't stay with the greenskins in the grassy ocean. His destiny was to lead him over very different and unexpected pathways, but that is another story and shall be told another time. That same night, Atreu rode to the foot of the Silver Mountains. It was almost morning when he finally stopped to rest. Artax grazed a while and drank water from a small mountain stream. Atreu wrapped himself in his red cloak and slept a few hours. But when the sun rose, they were already on their way. On the first day, they crossed the Silver Mountains, where every road and trail was known to them, and they made quick progress. When he felt hungry, the boy ate a chunk of dried buffalo meat and 2 little grass seed cakes that he had been carrying in his saddlebag. Originally, they had been intended for his hunt. The text switches back to Burgundy. Exactly, said Bastian. A man has to eat now and then. He's calling himself a man now. It's so cute. He took a sandwich out of his satchel, unwrapped it, broke it carefully in 2 pieces, wrapped one of them up again and put it away. Then he ate the other. Recess was over. Bastian wondered what his class would be doing next. Oh yes, geography, with Mrs. Flint. You had to reel off rivers and their tributaries, cities, population figures, natural resources, and industries. Bastian shrugged his shoulders and went on reading. And the text on the next page switches back to green. By sunset, the Silver Mountains lay behind them, and again they stopped to rest. That night, Atreu dreamed of purple buffaloes. He saw them in the distance, roaming over the grassy ocean. He tried to get near them on his horse, in vain. He galloped, he spurred on his horse, but they were always the same distance away. The second day, they passed through the singing tree country. Each tree had a different shape, different leaves, different bark, but all of them in growing, and this is what gave the country its name, in growing made soft music that sounded from far and near, and joined in a mighty harmony that hadn't its like for beauty in all of Fantastica. Riding through this country wasn't entirely devoid of danger, for many a traveler had stopped still as though spellbound, and forgotten everything else. Sorry, my mic is in the wrong place. There we go. Atreu felt the power of those marvelous sounds, but didn't let himself be tempted to stop. The following night he dreamed again of purple buffaloes. This time he was on foot, and a great herd of them was passing, but they were beyond the range of his bow, and when he tried to come closer, his feet clung to the ground and he couldn't move them. His frantic efforts to tear them loose woke him up. He started out at once, though the sun had not yet risen. The third day, he saw the glass tower of Erebos, where the inhabitants of the region caught and stored starlight. Out of the starlight they made wonderfully decorative objects, the purpose of which, however, was known to no one in all Fantastica but their makers. He had met some of these folk, little creatures they were, who seemed to have been blown from glass. They were extremely friendly and provided him with food and drink. But when he asked them who might know something about the childlike Empress's illness, they sank into a gloomy, perplexed silence. The next night, Atreyu dreamed again that the herd of purple buffaloes was passing. One of the beasts, a particularly large, imposing bull, broke away from his fellows, and slowly, with no sign of either fear or anger, approached Atreyu. Like all true hunters, Atreyu knew every creature's vulnerable spot, where an arrow wound would be fatal. The purple buffalo put himself in such a position as to offer a perfect target. Atreyu fitted an arrow to his bow and pulled with all his might. But he couldn't shoot. His fingers seemed to have grown into the bowstring, and he couldn't release it. Each of the following nights he dreamed something of the sort. He got closer and closer to the same purple buffalo. He recognized him by a white spot on his forehead. But for some reason he was never able to shoot the deadly arrow. During the days he rode farther and farther, without knowing where he was going or finding anyone to advise him. The golden amulet he wore was respected by all who met him, but none ever had an answer to his question. One day he saw from afar the flaming streets of Salamander, the city whose inhabitants' bodies are of fire, but he preferred to keep away from it. He crossed the broad plateau of the Sassafranians. God, the names of these books. Sassafranians. Okay. He crossed the broad plateau of the Sassafranians, who are born old and die when they become babies. He came to the jungle temple of Muwamath, where a great moonstone pillar hovers in midair, and he spoke to the monks who lived there, and again no one could tell him anything. He had been traveling aimlessly for almost a week, when on the 7th day and the following night, 2 very different encounters changed his situation and state of mind. Chiron's story of the terrible happenings in all parts of Fantastica had made an impression on him, but thus far the disaster was something he had only heard about. On the 7th day, he was to see it with his own eyes. Toward noon, he was riding through a dense forest of enormous gnarled trees. This was the same howling forest where the 4 messengers had met some time before. That region, as Atreyu knew, was the home of bark trolls. These, as he had been told, were giants and giantesses, who themselves looked like gnarled tree trunks. As long as they stood motionless, as they usually did, you could easily mistake them for trees and ride on unsuspecting. Only when they moved could you see that they had branch-like arms and crooked root-like legs. Though exceedingly powerful, they were not dangerous. At most, they liked to play tricks on travelers who had lost their way. Atreyu had just discovered a woodland meadow with a brook twining through it, and had dismounted to let Artax drink and graze. Suddenly, he heard a loud crackling, and thudding in the woods behind him. 3 bark trolls emerged from the woods and came toward him. A cold shiver ran down his spine at the sight of them. The first, having no legs or haunches, was obliged to walk on his hands. The second had a hole through his chest, so big you could see through it, just like in Kung Pao Enter the Fist, when the guy gets like the stomach plug punched out of him. Exactly like that. The third hopped on his right foot because the whole left half of him was missing, as if he had been cut through the middle. When they saw the amulet hanging from Atreyu's neck, they nodded to one another and came slowly closer. "Don't be afraid," said the one who was walking on his hands, and his voice sounded like the groaning of a tree. "We're not exactly pretty to look at, but in this part of the Howling Forest, there's no one else left who might warn you. That's why we've come." "Warn?" Atreyu asked. "Against what?" "We've heard about you," moaned the one with the hole in his chest. "And we've been told about your quest. Don't go any further in this direction or you'll be lost." "The same thing will happen to you as happened to us," sighed the halved one. "Would you like that?" "What has happened to you?" Atreyu asked. "The nothing is spreading," groaned the first. "It's growing and growing. There's more of it every day, if it's possible to speak of more nothing. All the others fled from the howling forest in time, but we didn't want to leave our home. The nothing caught us in our sleep, and this is what it did to us." "Is it very painful?" Atreyu asked. "No," said the second bark troll, the one with the hole in his chest. "You don't feel a thing. There's just something missing. And once it gets a hold of you, something more is missing every day. Soon there won't be anything left of us." "In what part of the woods did it begin?" Atreyu asked. "Would you like to see it?" The third troll, who was only half a troll, turned to his fellow sufferers with a questioning look. When they nodded, he said, "We'll take you to a place where there's a good view of it, but you must promise not to go any closer. If you do, it will pull you in." "All right," said Atreyu, "I promise." The three turned about and made for the edge of the forest. Leading Artax by the bridle, Atreyu followed them. For a while they went this way and that way between enormous trees. Then finally they stopped at the foot of a giant tree so big that 5 grown men holding hands could scarcely have girdled it. "Climb as high as you can," said the legless troll, "and look in the direction of the sunrise. Then you'll see, or rather, not see it." Atreyu pulled himself up by the knots and bumps on the tree. He reached the lower branches, hoisted himself to the next, climbed and climbed until he lost sight of the ground below him. Higher and higher he went, the trunk grew thinner, and the more closely spaced side branches made it easier to climb. When at last he reached the crown, he turned towards the sunrise, and then he saw it. The tops of the trees nearest him were still green, but the leaves of those farther away seemed to have lost all color. They were gray. A little farther on, the foliage seemed to become strangely transparent, misty, or better still, unreal. And farther still, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a bare stretch, not darkness, not some lighter color, no. It was something the eyes could not bear, something that made you feel you had gone blind, for no eye can bear the sight of utter nothingness. Atreyu held his hand before his face and nearly fell off his branch. He clung tight for a moment, then climbed down as fast as he could. He had seen enough. At last he really understood the horror that was spreading through Fantastica. When he reached the foot of the great tree, the 3 bark trolls had vanished. Atreyu swung himself into the saddle and galloped as fast as Artax would carry him in the direction that would take him away from this slowly but irresistibly spreading nothing. By nightfall, he had left Howling Forest far behind him. Only then did he stop to rest. That night, a second encounter, which was to give his great quest a new direction, awaited him. He dreamed much more distinctly than before of the purple buffalo he had wanted to kill. This time, Atreyu was without his bow and arrow. He felt very, very small, and the buffalo's face filled the whole sky. And the face spoke to him. He couldn't understand every word, but this is the gist of what it had said. "If you had killed me, you would be a hunter now, but because you let me live, I can help you, Atreyu. Listen to me. There is in Fantastica a being older than all other beings. In the north, far, far from here, lie the swamps of sadness. In the middle of those swamps there is a mountain. Tortoise Shell Mountain, it's called. There lives Morla the Aged One. Go and see Morla the Aged One." And then Atreyu woke up. At this moment the text switches back to Burgundy. The clock in the belfry struck 12. Soon Bastion's classmates would be going down to the gym for their last class. Today they'd probably be playing with the big, heavy medicine ball with which Bastion handled so awkwardly that neither of the 2 teams ever wanted him. And sometimes they played with a small, hard rubber ball that hurt terribly when it hit you. Bastion was an easy mark and was always getting hit full force. Or perhaps they'd be climbing rope, an exercise that Bastion especially detested. Most of the others would be all the way to the top, while he, with his face as with his face as red as a beet, would be dangling like a sack of flour at the very bottom of the rope, unable to climb as much as a foot. They'd all be laughing their heads off, and Mr. Menge, or that would be Mr. Menge, the gym teacher, had a special stock of jibes just for Bastian, meaning that he would make fun of him. Bastian would have given a good deal to be like Atreyu. He'd have shown them. He heaved a deep sigh, and the text goes back to green. Atreyu rode northward, ever northward. He allowed himself and his little horse only the most necessary stops for sleep and food. He rode by day and he rode by night, in the scorching sun and in the pelting rain. He looked neither to the left nor to the right, and he asked no more questions. The farther northward he went, the darker it grew. An unchanging leaden-gray twilight filled the days. At night, the northern lights played across the sky. One morning, when time seemed to be standing still in the murky light, he looked out from a hilltop and finally glimpsed the swamps of sadness. Clouds of mist drifted over them. Here and there he distinguished little clumps of trees, their trunks divided at the bottom into 4, 5, or more crooked stilts, which made the trees look like many-legged crabs standing in the black water. From the brown foliage hung aerial roots resembling motionless tentacles. It was next to impossible to make out where there was solid ground between the pools of water, and where there was only a covering of water plants. Artax whinnied with horror. "Are we going in there, master?" "Yes," said Atreyu. "We must find Tortoiseshell Mountain. It's at the center of those swamps." He urged Artax on, and Artax obeyed. Step by step, he tested the firmness of the ground, but that made progress very slow. At length, Atreyu dismounted and led Artax by the bridle. Several times the horse sank in, but managed to pull himself loose. But the farther they went into the swamps of sadness, the more sluggish became his movements. He let his head droop and barely dragged himself forward. "Artax," said Atreyu, "what's the matter?" "I don't know, master. I think we should turn back. There's no sense in all this. We're chasing after something you only dreamed about. We won't find anything. Maybe it's too late even now. Maybe the childlike empress is already dead. Maybe everything we're doing is useless. Let us turn back, master." Atreyu was astonished. "Artax," he said, "you've never spoken like this. What's the matter? Are you sick?" "Maybe I am," said Artax. "With every step we take, the sadness grows in my heart. I've lost hope, master. And I feel so heavy, so heavy. I can't go on." "But we must go on," cried Atreyu. "Come along, Artax." He tugged at the bridle, but Artax stood still. He had sunk in up to his belly, and he made no further effort to extricate himself. "Artax," cried Atreyu, "you mustn't let yourself go. Come, pull yourself out, or you'll sink." "Leave me, master," said the little horse. "I can't make it. Go on alone. Don't bother about me. I can't stand the sadness any more. I want to die." Desperately, Atreyu pulled at the bridle. But the horse sank deeper and deeper. When only his head emerged from the black water, Atreyu took it in his arms. "I'll hold you, Artax," he whispered. "I won't let you go under." The little horse uttered one last soft neigh. "You can't help me, master. It's all over for me." Neither of us knew what we were getting into. Now we know why they're called the swamps of sadness. It's the sadness that's made me so heavy. That's why I'm sinking. There's no help. "But I'm here too," said Atreyu, "and I don't feel anything." "You're wearing the gem, master," said Artax. "It protects you." "Then I'll hang it around your neck," Atreyu cried. "Maybe it'll protect you too." He started taking the chain off his neck. No, the little horse whinnied. You mustn't do that, master. The glory was entrusted to you. You weren't given permission to pass it along as you see fit. You must carry on the quest without me. Atreyu pressed his face into the horse's cheek. Artax, he whispered. Oh, my Artax. Will you grant my last wish? The little horse asked. Atreyu nodded in silence. Then I beg you to go away. I don't want you to see my end. Will you do me that favor? Slowly Atreyu arose. Half the horse's head was already in the black water. Farewell, Atreyu, my master, he said, and thank you. Atreyu pressed his lips together. He couldn't speak. Once again he nodded to Artax, and he turned away. The text switches back to Bastion. You and Bastion both, and also me, I'm tearing up. Oh my god, this is so much worse in the book. Let's all take a break as Bastion takes a break. Jesus Christ. I did warn you all. This is harder. This is harder than the movie. I gotta get my reading voice back under me so I can keep going. I'm not reading half a chapter. No. Jeez, what a hard chapter. What a hard chapter. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4.5 pages left. We can do this. We can do this. I'm glad you are enjoying the story, Serenaded. And hi, Neke, and hi, Ludus. Welcome in. This is one of the toughest parts of the book. This right here. Was that scene we just went through. It's gonna be easier than this. Oh my god, it's so good. Get one that has the proper prints. You need to have it in the burgundy text and the green text. You have to. Otherwise it doesn't read correctly. I don't know if they ever printed it in black and white. I think it's always been printed in these two colors. I don't think that anyone who is in control of Michael Ende's estate would... I don't think that they would do it wrong. This is so good. I can't recommend the book enough. And as I said before, if we get through this one, which there's, oh my god, how many chapters? Yeah, 26. There's 26 chapters. If we get through all of these, then this is like a 2 chapters a week, a little over, about 3 months of story. So that would put us at August. I will be finishing the story right about when I go on my trip. So I guess if we switch over to another book after this, it will probably be after my move. Wah! Hello, kittens. Oh, the slime's off screen because I got yeeted off stream. This is fine. Yeah. Hard part of the book, This is fine. But I mean, this was an outlet for kids to have books that really handled things like loss. Where? Thank you for the stretch. Meh. Oh, you got my neck. Bah. Thank you very much. All right. Let's get back to reading. Oh, I know, because I did it to you all. Yeah. Feel a bit better. Have a couple stretches, a bonk. Yeah, thank you. Because just like we all were, as we go back to Burgundy text and back to the book, Bastian was sobbing. He couldn't help it. His eyes filled with tears, and he couldn't go on reading. He had to go take out his handkerchief and blow his nose before he could go on. Atreyu waited and waited as the text goes back to green. For how long he didn't know. The mist grew thicker, and he felt as if he were blind and deaf. It seemed to him that he had been wandering around in circles for hours. He stopped worrying about where to set his foot down. Yet he never sank in above his knees. By some mysterious means, the childlike Empress's amulet led him the right way. Then suddenly, he saw a high, steep mountain ahead of him. Pulling himself up from crag to crag, he climbed to the rounded top. At first, he didn't notice what this mountain was made of. But from the top, he overlooked the whole mountain, and then he saw that it consisted of great slabs of tortoiseshell, with moss growing in the crevices between them. He had found Tortoiseshell Mountain. But the discovery gave him no pleasure. Now that his faithful little horse was gone, it left him almost indifferent. Still, he would have to find out who this Morla the Aged won, and where she actually lived. While he was mulling it over, he felt a slight tremor shaking the mountain. Then he heard a hideous wheezing and lip-smacking, and a voice that seemed to issue from the innermost bowels of the earth. "Sakes alive, old woman, someone's crawling around on us." In hurrying to the end of the ridge, where the sounds had come from, Atreyu had slipped on a bed of moss. Since there was nothing for him to hold on to, he slid faster and faster and finally fell off this mountain. Luckily, he landed on a tree, which caught him in the branches. Looking back at the mountain, he saw an enormous cave. Water was splashing and gushing inside, and something was moving. Slowly, the something came out. It looked like a boulder as big as a house. When it came into full sight, Atreyu saw that it was a head attached to a long, wrinkled neck, the head of a turtle. Its eyes were black and as big as ponds. The mouth was dripping with muck and water weeds. This whole tortoiseshell mountain, it suddenly dawned on Atreyu, was one enormous beast. A giant swamp turtle, Morla the Aged One. The wheezing, gurgling voice spoke again. "What are you doing here, son?" Atreyu reached for the amulet on his chest and held it in such a way that the great eyes couldn't help seeing it. "Do you recognize this, Morla?" She took a while to answer. "Sakes alive, Arin. We haven't seen that in a long time, have we, old woman? The emblem of the childlike Empress, not in a long time." "The childlike Empress is sick," said Atreyu. "Do you know that?" "It's all the same to us, isn't it, old woman?" Morla replied. She seemed to be talking to herself, perhaps because she had no one else to talk to, for heaven knows how long. "If we don't save her, she'll die," Atreyu cried out. "The nothing is spreading everywhere. I've seen it myself." Morla stared at him out of her great empty eyes. "We don't mind, do we, old woman?" "But then we shall all die," Atreyu screamed, "every last one of us." "Sakes alive," said Morla. "But what do we care? Nothing matters to us anymore. It's all the same to us." "But you'll be destroyed too, Morla," cried Atreyu angrily. "Or do you expect because you're so old to outlive Fantastica?" "Sakes alive," Morla gurgled. "We're old, son, much too old. Lived long enough, seen too much. When you know as much as we do, nothing matters. Things just repeat. Day and night, summer and winter. The world is empty and aimless. Everything circles around. Whatever starts up must pass away. Whatever is born must die. It all cancels out, good and bad, beautiful and ugly. Everything's empty. Nothing's real. Nothing matters." Atreyu didn't know what to answer. The Aged One's dark, empty, pond-sized eyes paralyzed his thoughts. After a while, he heard her speak again. "You're young, son. If you were as old as we are, you'd know there's nothing but sadness. Why shouldn't we die, you and I, the childlike Empress, the whole lot of us? Anyway, it's all flim-flam. Meaningless games. Nothing matters. Leave us in peace, son. Go away." Atreyu tensed his will to fight off the paralysis that flowed from her eyes. "If you know so much," he said, "then you must know what the childlike Empress's illness is and whether there's a cure for it." We do, don't we, old woman?" Morla wheezed. "But it's all the same to us, whether she's saved or not. So why should we tell you?" "If it's really the same to you," Atreyu argued, "you might as well tell me." We could, couldn't we, old woman?" Morla grunted. "But we don't feel like it." Yes, she has Treebeard. Yes, absolutely. "Then it's not all the same to you. Then you yourself don't believe what you're saying." After a long silence, he heard a deep gurgling and belching. That must have been some kind of laughter, if Morla the Aged One was still capable of laughing. In any case, she said, "You're a sly one, son. Really sly. We haven't had so much fun in a long time, have we, old woman? Sakes alive, it's true. We might just as well tell you. Makes no difference. Should we tell 'em, old woman?" A long silence followed. Atreyu waited anxiously for Morla's answer, taking care not to interrupt the slow, cheerless flow of her thoughts. At last she spoke. "Your life is short, son. Ours is long, much too long. But we both live in time. You a short time, we a long time. The childlike Empress has always been there. But she is not old. She has always been young. She still is. Her life isn't measured by time, but by names. She needs a new name. She keeps needing new names. Do you know her name, son?" "No," Atreyu admitted. "I never heard it." "You couldn't have," said Morla. "Not even we can remember it. Yet, she has had many names, but they're all forgotten. Over and done with. But without a name she can't live. All the childlike Empress needs is a new name, and then she'll get well. But it makes no difference whether she gets well or not." She closed her pond-sized eyes and began slowly to pull in her head. "Wait," cried Atreyu. "Where can she get a name? Who can give her one? Where can I find the name?" "None of us," Morla gurgled. "No inhabitant of Fantastica can give her a new name. So it's hopeless. Sakes alive, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters." "Who then?" cried Atreyu in despair. "Who can give her the name that will save her and save us all?" Don't make so much noise, said Morla. Leave us in peace and go away. Even we don't know who can give her a name. If you don't know, Atreyu screamed even louder. Who does? She opened her eyes a last time. If you weren't wearing the gem, she wheezed, we'd eat you up just to have peace and quiet. Sakes alive. Who, Atreyu insisted. Tell me who knows, and I'll leave you in peace forever. It doesn't matter, she replied. But maybe Uyulala in the Southern Oracle knows. It's spelled Uyullala, which is such a hard name to say. Uyulala. Uyulala. Maybe the Southern Oracle knows. She may know. It's all the same to us. How can I get there? You can't get there at all, son. Not in 10,000 days' journey. Your life is too short. You'd die first. It's too far. In the south, much too far. So it's all hopeless. We told you so in the first place, didn't we, old woman? Sakes alive, son. Give it up. And most important, leave us in peace. With that, she closed her empty gazing eyes and pulled her head back into the cave for good. Atreyu knew he would learn no more from her. At that same time, the shadowy being, which had condensed out of the darkness of the heath, picked up Atreyu's trail and headed for the swamps of sadness. Nothing and no one in all Fantastica would deflect it from that trail. The text goes back to Burgundy. Bastian had propped his head on his hand and was looking thoughtfully into space. Strange, he said aloud, that no one in all Fantastica can give the childlike Empress a new name. If it had been just a matter of giving her a name, Bastian could easily have helped her. He was tops at that. But unfortunately, he was not in Fantastica, where his talents were needed, and would have even won him friends and admirers. On the other hand, he was glad to not be there. Not for anything in the world would he have ventured into such a place as the swamps of sadness. And then the spooky creature of darkness that was chasing Atreyu without his knowing it. Bastian would have liked to warn him, but that was impossible. All he could do was hope and go on reading. And that is where we end Chapter 3. The next chapter is Chapter 4. It's called Yragmul. I've been thinking it wrong. Ygramul the Many. Ygramul. My God, the names in this book. So, Chapter 4, Ygramul the Many, will be read this coming Saturday night. Yeah, I know, it's okay, it's okay. So yeah, that's the Swamps of Sadness in the book. What did you all think about the differences? Let me get the book out of my face, hold on. Ow. I'm okay. Rude. But yeah, that's the end of Chapter 3. Thank you for being here and listening to my reading a book. I'm gonna have some book ASMR. Riffling pages and stuff. I love physical books. Genuinely felt less and more devastating than the film. Yeah, it's different. It's not quite the you're hearing someone screams in your bones sort of feeling, but more you're feeling their emotions deeper in you than the film. It's more personal in the book. I would say. More personal in the book. What do you think? I think that's how I would put it. Also, in order to read the book, I've had it propped up on Grimm's Fairy Tales. Grimm's is okay, but I would always use it to prop up the Neverending Story. Yeah, different kind of cut. Yeah. I think that they did a good job in the film to get that amount of emotion in a shorter amount of time, I suppose. And I think for the movie they did a good job of it. But definitely it was being able to see Artax's point of view was, honestly, as a child, I think that was my only way. I think that might have been my first way that I learned how to describe what I, as a child, experienced as depression. Because I have, chemical chronic depression. And I always have, even as a kid. So, that would happen and I wouldn't know how to deal with it. And, having words to describe it is important. And, they don't have to be big words. They just have to be accessible. So, yeah. I like that I had access to this as a kid. It really helped me a lot. It helped me process a lot. Yeah, the actor's performance in that scene. I don't think that there is any scene by any child or adult that really matches that for me. I really don't think so. But yeah, no, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the sort of situation that, I'm not sure they could have handled how heavy that was without having it be really, obvious for children to be like, no, this is the feeling you feel when this happens. It comes out like that, and kids are much more like that. For a children's movie, billed as a children's movie, I think they handled it right for the movie. Definitely I feel like the book was more meant for young adults. It was more meant for that, tweener age. Right between, right between, what's it called? Yeah. Oh, the technology of the era also would have made it, it would have been really hokey. They probably could do it now, but even so, it would be overdone now. No. Yeah, no, I agree. So, yeah. Oh, shit. What is it? I'm interested. The difference in feeling? Yeah, what makes it different for you? What... Was it the difference between the screaming pulling Atreyu versus the I'll grant your... Yeah. The movie you're watching a devastating scene of a boy losing his horse to a swamp, which is already horrific, right? And the book has the horse talking to you, the reader, as Atreyu's... Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It allows you in a bit more... Yeah. It personifies it so much more, and lets some of, I don't know, it gives it a little bit of reasoning. You can kind of see Artax's point of view in that, they don't want you to watch their suffering. They want you to go on with your life. There's a lot of parallels to how children would be taught, how to, you go on with your life, you continue your life, you can't stay back here with me forever, sort of thing. It's very much like a passing the torch sort of thing, but it was a very traumatic way of it to be told. Yeah. But yeah, it pulls you in. It pulls you in, and you as Atreyu respond back to Artax in turn as well. So it cuts on both sides of that. Yeah. Yeah. It pulls you straight in. It pulls us in the swamp? Yeah. Well, the swamp pulls you in, nothing pulls you in. I mean, all the bad feelings pull you in. I will figure out what I am going to do tomorrow. Let me see what we have. Let's see. If I need to have it be a lower key day, I might have tomorrow be the web fishing lobby. And if I'm up for trying something that's more difficult for myself, I might go for VVVVVV. I don't think that I will know which I'm going for until tomorrow, once I see how I sleep and all of that. I don't think I'm going to be raiding out like usual on the reading streams. I don't want to jump scare people with ads or with whatever, Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying the story. I'm really, really glad you're enjoying the story. Plus, you got your turtle. I think of that turtle every time I think of Ama, by the way. Every single time. I think of Morla, the Asian one. Yeah, you're gonna go as well now. Yeah. So, I'm gonna go chill for the rest of my night. And try and get to sleep a little earlier. And try and start maybe a little early tomorrow. Would be nice. To start before 2, but that seems to be the starting time. Good night, Serenaded. Yeah, I hope you sleep well too. Bye. Thank you all for being here. Sleep well, Faye. I will see you all tomorrow.